Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasts.
There is a claim that life is measured, not in the breaths you take, but in the moments that take your breath away. The fatal flaw in this thinking is the positive aspect, the idea that what takes your breath away is beauty and happiness. When in reality, there is a stronger emotion at play that takes our breath and then kicks it up a notch: fear. And for this father, when fear entered his mind, he had only one choice to make. Fear made him hurry his daughters. Fear made him scream. Fear made him run. And fear made him a hero. For when he turned and saw what was charging at his daughters, he charged back, right into the arms of a polar bear. Welcome back to Tragedy with a View. Hello, I am your host, Kayla, and with me for this episode, this first Fat Bear Week episode, is Daniella and Maegan from Off the Trails.
Hello, hello.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Thanks for joining me. I'm actually very excited because I have not had a lot of people on the podcast lately. I've been talking to myself, so it's nice and refreshing to actually have some other voices in here and, you know, not have my... I've researched this story and retyped this story and read this story multiple times, and I'm not emotional about it anymore kind of thing. So I appreciate you guys coming on and doing this with me. And I understand you guys have some stuff coming up this month.
We do. So October means the return of the Sunday Scaries. So each week we'll be bringing you brand new chilling outdoor mysteries. Plus, one episode will feature a surprise guest. I wonder who that will be.
Ooh. It's not me. I'm
no, not you. And with this being the third year, you've also got plenty of past episodes to dive into as well. So catch new Sunday Scaries every Sunday in October, only on Off the Trails.
That's exciting. 3 years. How has it been so long?
I don't know.
You've been doing it 3 years, just about two, right?
We started the same month, July of 23, I think, right?
Yeah. I think I started in June. Goodness, I'm not even sure. It was one of the J months.
Summer of 23.
Yeah, so then also, since this is the first episode of Fat Bear Week, if nobody else has listened to any of the prior episodes, this is going to be a total of 4 episodes to celebrate Fat Bear Week, where Katmai Conservancy, Katmai National Park, the National Park Service, and Explore.org kind of join together, and you can vote on the fattest bear in Katmai National Park. And there's some really fat bears out there already. I was watching the camera this last week, and I got a nice little serotonin boost from seeing all the really fat, chunky bears. So highly recommend. Explore.org is where you can find the videos, and it's a live stream. So it's really cool.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And kind of oddly, with this being Fat Bear Week, we are talking about a different kind of bear because the bears in Katmai are grizzly bears. Actually, most of the bears in this series are not fat bears at all, which might be part of the problem. And you will see that as a trend as we go through these episodes. But we are talking about a polar bear in this episode because I wanted to branch out and get a little bit different of a feel, especially because grizzly bears and polar bears habitats cross over quite a bit. And I didn't realize like how much they did until I was researching this episode. And because of that crossover, I just thought it was appropriate that I could throw in a polar bear episode. And polar bear episodes are less covered than grizzly bears. But we're going to move on from that.
I also didn't realize that they had so much overlap in territory.
I didn't either.
Yeah, there's actually grizzly bear, polar bear crosses. Like they're breeding with each other, and there's like this new species, I guess, developing. I don't know that that's the correct terminology for it.
I think I've seen this where there is this new sort of hybrid version, and I think I saw a picture and it was kind of cool looking.
I'm not sure that this picture is not AI. I mean, it looks pretty. Like now that I'm looking at it, it looks pretty cartoonish, but
It's so hard to tell these days.
I mean, it's wait a second. Hold on.
I mean, either way, that is kind of cute.
Here's an adult one.
In like an ugly sweater kind of way. Like
There's a picture on and there's a picture on Live Science, and I trust them.
Yeah. Live Science is a good source. So on the banks of Hudson Bay, you will find a ton of establishments that range from small towns to tiny settlements. The unique and harsh environment plays a role into why only a few people settle here. But for those who call this area home, there is no place they would rather be. Hudson Bay is a huge body of water, and despite many streams and rivers feeding fresh water into the bay, due to it being connected to both the Atlantic Ocean and the Arctic Ocean, it is saltwater. Looking at the map, you will find that this is the largest body of water that penetrates into Canada, bordered by Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba, Nunavut, and Iqaluit. On the northwest shores, there is an Inuit community called Aravat, which is home to around 2,600 people. Due to its proximity with Hudson Bay, they share their home with a variety of wildlife that they both use for a source of food and stay very conscious of. Depending on the time of year, they may collect bird eggs, hunt for seals, hunt for whales, hunt caribou, and collect berries. But one animal that they have learned to live with and stay abundantly cautious of is the polar bear. With temperatures in Aravat dropping to negative 50 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 46 degrees Celsius, the snow covering the ground from September through June, it is not surprising that the Arctic animal would be a common sight. Due to the climate change, they are seeing the bears more and more. Did I say due to the climate change?
The one and only.
The one and only climate change. It's the only climate change that we have, guys. Due to climate change, they are seeing the bears more and more, but we will dig into that here in a minute. The Western Hudson Bay polar bear population in 2016 was 842 bears, and during the time the population was staying stable as far as the number of bears go. However, their body condition was decreasing as smaller and skinnier bears were coming close to town more and more frequently. Just 5 years later, in 2021, the population was counted again, and that number had dropped 27% to 618 bears, continuing the long and devastating downward trend of this species. It is expected that the worldwide population will decrease by 66% by the year 2050, which is only 25 years away. In 2008, the polar bear became the first vertebrate listed in the United States Endangered Species Act due to climate change. And as we know, the constant back and forth of restrictions to the act prevent the true protection the endangered species desperately needs. Canada also has polar bears listed under both their Species at Risk Act, and provinces also have their own Endangered Species Act, which polar bears are listed under, which gives them extra protections. Specifically under the Species at Risk Act, polar bears are listed as a special concern, which then triggers the development of plans and extra resources to ensure their long-term survival. Though, much like the United States, they also suffer from a lack of funds to be able to consistently keep these plans in place. Never mind that much of the problem is a global effect, and therefore there would need to be a global effort in order to have actual changes, and that just doesn't seem to be possible with the sheer number of very different views that the world has on climate change, in addition to the lack of understanding or the lack of being able to receive accurate information. Coming back to the bears, polar bears evolved from grizzly bears roughly 3 million years ago. It has been noted that there are some interspecies breeding between grizzlies and polar bears, as at times they inhabit the same areas. And these bears are called grizzly bears, which makes me want to go hug a bear. It makes me really want to go hug it. The other name that they're going by is growler bears, which does not make me want to go hug it.
Right. One feels like cuddly and like you want to pet it and snuggle with it. And then the second name is like, oh, wait, that is not what I want to do.
You stay over there. I'll stay over here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So some information about polar bears, since this is the first episode that I have done with polar bears, and just some of this information, keeping in mind that some of this information might seem like common sense, but not everyone has cared about polar bears and not everyone has access to information about polar bears. And especially if you live like southern United States, you're just so far removed that the information just isn't freely provided the same way as like Alaska would have that information. So polar bears have 2 layers of thick fur covering their bodies. The fur is not actually white, but rather transparent, and the outer shell reflects both light and snow, giving it its white appearance.
Okay, I did not know that their fur was transparent. Did you guys?
You didn't?
No.
I did. I had heard that, yeah.
Man, I guess thank you for educating me. I'm one of the uneducated people that you are giving the basic information to.
In my first paragraph, I'm so proud. Mm-hmm. We have the zoo that's nearby has a really successful polar bear breeding program. And I've religiously, every time there's babies, I'm at the zoo as much as I can possibly get. So I'm definitely one of those people where it's like, oh, some of this stuff seems like common sense because I've spent hours in front of the exhibit at the zoo and talking to the keepers and learning everything that I can. And then there's other people who haven't done that. There's a lot of people who have not done that. So we're going to not use me as the
standard.
Baseline.
I'm not the standard. Yeah. Danielle is the baseline. I am above and beyond and out of this world. So their skin is black, which helps to absorb the sunlight's warmth. And between the 2 layers of fur and the sunlight absorption and up to 4 inches of fat, they stay cozy warm in the Arctic climate.
That's what I'm going to do this winter.
Yeah, 4 inches of fat.
Keep myself warm.
I've already been like, when can we turn the heat on in the house? Is August too soon? We had a cold snap. We got like down to 40 degrees a few nights ago. And I woke up and I was like, socks, sweatpants, sweater, hat, gloves, maybe turn the heat on. But then it was like getting up into the 70s. So I was like, then it's going to be too hot in the house.
It's just keeping you on your toes.
It is. It's getting me ready for what is to come this winter.
Mm-hmm.
With 2 inches or 5 centimeter long claws and 42 razor sharp teeth, these bears are kings of the predator world, and they have adapted to the difficult, cold, and barren landscape of the north. They have 3 eyelids, the normal 2 that most species have, and a third which helps keep the eye moist. And it also reflects UV light, so that way they don't suffer from things such as snow blindness, and it helps them to see clearly underwater. Because much of the fresh water in their environment is frozen, they have also developed a special enzyme that metabolizes the fat they consume from their prey, like seals. And as the fat is broken down, it releases water, and this is how they stay hydrated.
Oh, wow.
Which is really cool. I didn't ever think about, fresh water being frozen in the Arctic and how animals would get their water until I learned that. And then I was like, it all makes sense. Now it all makes sense.
I just assumed they were making like little snow cones.
Yeah. the Pisleys are having their snow cones and gather around the campfire, kids.
Okay, I think that's a Christmas movie that needs to happen.
I'll get on that. Add that to the list of things I'm doing.
Please do.
So much spare time. Definitely make a movie.
Yes. Or a kid's book. Oh, that's a good idea.
And then the movie later.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to remember that.
Do it.
Polar bears are found in 5 countries, being Greenland, Norway, Russia, Canada, and only in Alaska in the United States. At 7 to 8 feet in length, when on all fours, and 11 feet tall when standing upright, they max out at 1,700 pounds, and these are the largest predators on land.
11 feet tall is just so insane. Like, I picture if a bear is up on its hind legs in front of me, that it's going to be like a couple feet taller than me. But 11 feet is literally twice my height.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
That bear is looking in your second-story window.
Oh, God.
That's right. Why would you even...
It is.
That makes it even more unsettling.
Mm-hmm. Now you're going to just picture
perspective like that.
Just like little bear eyes right in your window.
Aww.
There's videos of people being in a variety of places and like looking out their window and there's like a bear peeking in. And I would be, as much of a bear lover as I am, I would not be okay if I looked out my window and there was a bear there, like peeking in, like, ooh, do you got any food? I would get me out of there. I'm out.
It's very different when they're in your space unexpectedly.
Yeah. I mean, even when I go hiking out in bear territory, I'm like, I should not be here. I am food.
Yep.
But hopefully, I've always said that if my goal is to see a bear at a distance. And once I see a bear at a distance, I will be happy and I can move on with my life and I will never have to enter into that space again. But until then, I'm going to keep creeping around very fearfully because now the last 3 years almost have been consumed with researching bear attacks. And that does not do anything but make you think you're going to get attacked by a bear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you have black bears, right?
We actually don't technically have any bears. They pass through and we'll see one, but it's not making this area home. So if you go south into like Ohio, Kentucky, there's bears. If you go a little bit more west, there's not as many bears. But yeah, like we just don't have bears. We don't have bears. We don't have crocodiles. We don't have a lot of things. So I think I'm going to stay put where I'm at.
I'm going to where all 3 are.
Yeah, that's great.
Are there bears in Florida?
Yeah, they have black bears.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't be in South Florida. South Florida is like the Everglades is the only place in the United States where crocodiles are. Well, where crocodiles and alligators also cohabitate, but obviously alligators are everywhere else in the state. But Danielle, she likes to move into houses where bears hang out in the backyards.
Oh.
I do. Yeah, I recently, last month, had my own like bear encounter that was a little too close for comfort. And now, even like weeks later, as soon as it starts to get like dusk out, my child will not go outside because
I don't blame
there
him.
could be a bear. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong because we lost a chicken and I had to fix 2 sections of fence. And when we was just standing at the edge of the yard, because the chicken was missing, and I was like, I don't know what that was. And all of a sudden we see like the bear coming up behind the coop. And I'm like, okay, it's time to go in.
Do you think the bear got the chicken?
It did, definitely.
It knocked over just like 2 sections of the pen that were pretty well reinforced.
Oh, yeah. Like busted the wood
Oh, no.
on my fence.
Well, hopefully the bear decides that it's got food elsewhere and it doesn't need to keep coming back for more chickens, because that's a problem.
Yeah, once they find a food source, they're like, this is pretty convenient.
Yeah, actually,
Yes.
it's not until the next page, but we're going to talk about human food sources of bears here in a few paragraphs. Okay, so we were talking about how big they are. In metric units, the sizes are 2.1 to 2.4 meters in length and 3.4 meters tall and 771 kilograms. And when you consider that cubs weigh 1.5 pounds or 2/3 of a kilogram at birth, it's astonishing that they grow to be so big. It's just a little handful of something. A handful of a bear.
That's like kitten size almost.
It is. I'm pretty sure my cat that I have now, when I got her, I think she was about 1 pound, and she was like the size of my palm. And I mean, I've got big hands, but
yeah,
she was still the size of my palm. Polar bears are classified as marine mammals due to their webbed feet and the fact that they spend more time on the water than they do on land. And since they like to follow their favorite food, which are seals, they tend to spend much of their life on ice or swimming between ice floes to stalk their prey. A texture called papillae, I could also be pronouncing that incorrectly, covers the pads of polar bears' feet, which gives them the perfect traction needed in order to walk across ice without sliding. And their paws are nearly 1 foot in diameter, which helps them to distribute their weight and allow them to walk through snow without post-holing and across thin ice without breaking through. Bears can sustain a pace of 6 miles per hour while swimming and reach speeds of 40 miles per hour while running on land. But it is not just speed they have, they also have endurance. The longest stretch of time a bear has swam without stopping was 9 days. And they have been known to stalk their prey for days at a time before making a move.
So if a bear is after you, you will not outswim it or outrun it or outlast at all.
They actually, I think the saying is like, if it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lie down. If it's white, say goodnight. Because you're done. Yeah, it's going to get you. Yeah. They are persistent. And I think part of the reason that they are so persistent is because they've just like naturally evolved to have to be able to essentially wear down their prey in order to capture it. And also wait for very long periods of time at a hole in the ice for a seal to pop its head out so that way it can grab it and chow.
Well, also because they will sometimes end up needing to go so long between meals. Mm-hmm. So when they hone in on one, they're like, I need to get this. Otherwise, I don't know when I'm eating again.
Yeah. Something that I've been looking at recently, and unfortunately I didn't look at it with bears. I don't know if there's a way to truly determine it, but like the success rate of hunts of animals and how low it actually is. And so it started, I was in New York last year and we went on like an osprey bald eagle adventure. And they mentioned to us that osprey and bald eagles only have like a 20 to 30% success rate when it comes to catching fish. And the amount of energy that they're using to get one successful kill is crazy. And it's amazing that these species even survive at all, in my mind. Like if we humans were 20% successful, we would be dead.
Oh yeah.
We would be dead.
Okay. So I did just look it up. I mean, this is a very like surface level Google search, but it says that their hunting success rates are also very low, with approximately only 2 out of every 10 hunts ending in a caught seal.
Okay. Yeah. So about 20%, which is...
Can you imagine if you went to the grocery store and you could only actually go in 20% of the time?
For every 10 times you go to the grocery store, you only get groceries twice.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But like you have to like, it takes you hours to get to the store.
You don't have a car.
Days in extreme temperatures
You have
and
to walk,
conditions.
and
You don't sleep.
yeah,
You can't sleep or the grocery store will disappear.
it's going to move on you, and then you're not going to be able to find it.
It's going to move.
Oh my gosh. So shockingly, along those lines, polar bears can live to be around 30 years old, though many in the wild don't even reach 25 years old, which is still a very long time when you're only getting 20% of your groceries.
Yeah.
But with the decline in body condition, there are also less and less cubs each year. And while they breed in the spring, a female bear does not become pregnant until the fall when the embryo implants in her uterus. However, biology has done some really cool things to help bears be able to sustain their own species. If the female bear does not weigh at least 490 pounds, her body will not sustain the pregnancy, birth, and then raising the cub or cubs. And this would cause her to not only lose her cubs, but it would also cause her to lose her life. And so if their body condition is not good enough and at that 490-pound weight, the embryo will not implant and it will just reabsorb into the body, and then she can breed again the following year, which is also very cool. If she does become pregnant, this is the only time that a polar bear will den up and hibernate or enter a state of torpor, but it's not quite as deep as grizzlies and black bears experience. They only do this so that their tiny newborn cubs will survive until they are big enough and have enough to survive. Have enough what to survive? They're big enough and have enough fat to survive the frigid conditions of the north, I'm guessing is where I was going with that. Polar bears generally do not hibernate because the winter month is when ice covers the waters, providing better hunting opportunities for them to get seals. And this is also the time that ringed seals have their babies, and the ringed seals will dig their own dens to hide their cubs in. And polar bears have been known to collapse these dens to get to the cubs. I see that little lip, Megan.
Just little baby seals. I can't. Talking about baby anything, you don't want to hear about carnage and eating and feeding, but obviously it has to be done, and I understand that. But just baby seals.
They're so cute. It's my dog has gotten into the habit. I call it a seal walk. He just like stretches his back legs behind him, and then he'll walk on his front feet and drag himself along. And his little feet, he's like slightly pigeon-toed, so his little toes go out to the side and it looks like a little fin, and I'm like, you're sealing. Oh, so cute. And he's got like the big dark eyes, and he looks like a little seal sometimes, so I can understand. I think, Megan, you will be happy to hear, though, that with the decline in sea ice due to climate change, the hunting of seals is getting harder and harder for polar bears. And to combat this, polar bears are changing their tactics and exhibiting behaviors otherwise not seen, such as, well, maybe you're not happy to hear about this part, but such as cannibalism. And also...
Yay!
I only saw the first half of that sentence and was like, oh, they're not getting the seals, but they're also eating each other. So balance.
I know it's all sad, right? It's all sad, and it's all necessary, though, unfortunately. And
yeah. I guess, necessary but also unnecessary part of that is that they are also starting to go into human establishments to find food there. In recent years, Aravat has been experiencing a spike in polar bear sightings. In 2010, a program performed by the World Wildlife Fund found that there was an increase in bears near the town from September through December, which was contributed to by climate change due to the delay of the formation of sea ice. Perimeter deterrents were set up with the use of air horns to help scare off bears, and residents found that shooting guns into the air or revving an engine worked as well to scare bears off. However, bears are incredibly smart animals, and they will figure out that these things are just noise. And in 2016, the program helped to deter a total of 205 bears, with 4 of the bears being shot in self-defense. Most of these instances occurred between the months of October and November. Because the sea ice takes longer and longer each year to form, bears are staying on land longer and longer, which means that they are missing out on their favorite food. They are hungry, and what else do these bears have to go after? Well, humans are smelly. We are smelly creatures. We have garbage dumps. We have cooking food. There's burning garbage, food storage areas. There's hunting camps. There's dog yards. And all of these things attract hungry bears. But there is one place that I never considered until it was found in my research. And it makes a lot of sense. But they are also attracted to cemeteries.
Oh, interesting. I was afraid you were going to say like schools or playgrounds, but it went in a different direction.
It went the opposite direction.
It did.
I don't know, with the way my day started this morning.
Go for it. They also scavenge for more natural sources of food that people also have gathered, which includes berries and bird eggs. So specifically tern eggs. Tern eggs are a specialty to the Arivot population. Terns lay their eggs only in late June and early July and collect in large, noisy colonies to do so.
Could you imagine how many berries and eggs it would take to even just barely satiate a full-grown adult bear? I mean, to them, that probably just feels like a few grains of salt.
It's a gummy bear. One egg is a gummy bear.
Yeah, like...
And gummy bears don't fill you up.
Just... No.
Nope.
Man.
So even though eggs are, really good food, berries are good food, it's just not going to fill them like it needs to actually, I would think, properly make a difference for it.
And of course, I was just thinking about when I go to the grocery store and a tiny thing of berries is $6 and, the eggs are $6. It's a good thing nobody has polar bears for pets because we could not afford to feed them.
Just sacrifice yourself.
Say Danielle's bear decided that the eggs aren't good enough. Get the whole chicken.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So with the constant intermingling of humans and polar bears, the community has learned to live with the threat. It is very common for people to carry guns with them, and when they travel from one area to another, it is almost unheard of that a shotgun isn't brought along just in case. And that is exactly what 31-year-old Aaron Gibbons grabbed on his way out the door with his daughters on the morning of July 3rd, 2018. They were off to Sentry Island, which is a mile-long hunting and fishing island where a colony of terns had been congregating. Aaron and his 3 daughters, ages 12, 10, and 5, knew that they were going to find eggs here. Tern eggs were considered a delicacy, and since this was a temporary abundance of them, only a short 6-mile or 10-kilometer boat ride away, the girls were looking forward to spending time with their dad, and he was looking forward to spend time with his girls.
So this island they're going to, was he aware, I'm assuming, that there's polar bears here?
Yes. Yeah.
Not my first stop with my kiddos.
I know. You hate to think, there's so much of me that's like, I would never take my child there. But I also don't live in a community where
you're desensitized to it in a sense where, not that you're complacent about it, but you're just aware that they exist around you and you can't not live your life as a result of that. But I think just there are a lot of animals that you can still respect and be intimidated by, that you coexist in the same vicinity as. But just a polar bear is just a whole other level of that, because as we talked about earlier in the episode, once it's locked in on you,
good luck.
Right, unfortunately. And you're so far in over your head if you do encounter a polar bear, whereas the chances of surviving an encounter with maybe a different type of predatory animal in a place where you live might be a little more likely of like a successful outcome.
Yeah, it's
for you or the bear.
For you, hopefully.
Well, the bear is hoping for them.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's just no way that I, of course, living where I do, where we've already discussed, I don't have bears. The only time that there's a bear is when it's passing through, and no one in our area has ever been harmed by a bear. Asterisks while they were in our area.
Yeah.
Plot twist. I am going to be doing an episode where someone from my area actually was attacked by a bear.
That'll be an interesting one.
But we're going to talk about it on another episode.
And I think going back to this, obviously, we haven't even gotten into this story, but I'm already just overwhelmed by the idea of taking 3 young kids anywhere. I mean, taking 3 young kids to a park or a store is just so far outside of anything I ever want to do. So for him to be taking his 3 young daughters to this island in this very, like, sort of a bit unforgiving, setting
environment
is just, I mean, more power to you.
So he was working in a mold mine. He was working in a gold mine. Eric, oh my goodness.
A mold guy.
This Eric guy.
Read the words.
Mold guy.
Working in a gold mine, Aaron often had to leave home for work for weeks at a time. And when he returned home, his priority was spending time with his wife and being involved with his growing daughters. He was a devoted father, loving husband, and a great provider, not just in work, but also in his hunting. The ride to Century Island was calm, and the family noticed that they were not alone on the water. But of course, they wouldn't be. With the opportunity to collect these eggs being a very short time, bears were not their only competition. In case I wasn't completely clear about this last paragraph, there were other people going to this island to collect eggs as well. I realize that I didn't specify that.
So these eggs were like a commodity for this local community?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Once they landed on dry land, Aaron grabbed a few things from the boat, but with the number of people around, he felt comfortable leaving his .22 rifle behind. He walked with his girls as they searched the rocks, carefully looking for the small 2-inch or 5-centimeter long eggs that were perfectly speckled in whites and grays and browns to blend into the rocks that they were laid directly on. The youngest played as she went, skipping and tossing the eggs that turned out to be just another rock. As the sun began to settle on the horizon around 7 p.m., Aaron decided it was time to go home and began heading his children back towards their boat. But as they went, the hair began to rise on the back of his neck. He felt like he was being watched, and sure enough, just over a small hill, Aaron noticed the large, fuzzy telltale sign of a polar bear that was nearby. Without alarming his girls, he figured the bear would keep its distance, as most did, but he began to try to get them to the boat a bit quicker. A half hour later, they were almost there. Stepping ahead, wanting to get to the boat and to his gun, Aaron felt a shift in the atmosphere. It was unlike anything that was felt before. It was an innate knowing that something bad was about to happen. It sunk into his bones, and time seemed to slow down. As he turned to check on his girls behind him, he saw the mass of white charging towards them. For its size, it moved nimbly, picking up speed with every stride. Its black eyes zoned in on his girls. Aaron screamed, telling his girls to run for the boat, and then sprinted directly towards the bear. He didn't think about the consequences, only that he needed to give his girls enough time to get to the boat and get away. As Aaron and the bear clashed, he yelled and punched and clawed. Once he was tossed on his back, he kicked his feet into the bear's mass. He fought with everything he had, standing his ground and continuing to fight as the bear mauled him and his life slipped away. But his efforts were not in vain. All 3 of his girls made it onto the boat, and they then used the radio to call for help. The girl's grandmother took the call, and Aaron's uncle, Gordy, overheard the message. In the background, the wind ripped the sound of the mauling away. But it could not cover the terror the girls expressed, the sadness that overcame them, nor the shot of the gun that echoed in the background. Another group that had been nearby heard the mauling and ran to help, shooting the bear dead. Once the bear dropped to the ground, they ran over to take a closer look. Blood was coating the ground with scraps of fabric littered throughout the rocks. They found Aaron was still alive, but fading quickly. They told him his girls were safe, and before they could do anything to help him, Aaron died.
Oh, I didn't know that anyone was going to die in this episode.
Look at me, like,
a miraculous survival.
I'm tearing up. I was like,
I looked at Danielle to the side. I'm like, I think she's getting a little.
What? Well, because I was just thinking, like as a parent, like your instinct is to protect your kids no matter what, and I think like that feeling when you have 3 kids, I can't even imagine the stress and the anxiety and just the panic.
And also, when he ran at that bear, he knew.
Yeah.
He knew he was not going to make it out. So he's literally charging at certain death.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying.
Yeah. I think the image that I had in my head and the hope that I would have for any parent out there is that if you knew death was coming to one of your children and you could do something to stop it, you would absorb every ounce of that you could. And I think he did exactly that when he, like, it wasn't like he from what witnesses saw, he didn't just like run and stand between his girls and the bear. He charged at the bear. And it was like he was absolutely sacrificing himself in this situation. And he knew that he was. And I think knowing his girls were safe and that what he intended worked in his favor, it gave him peace with that last little bit of time that he had. And that's all that we can hope for in situations like this is that the work that you did was enough.
Who knew I was going to be a crybaby in this episode? This is terrible, making me so sad.
So sorry.
Well, you guys are both parents and to kids that are, I think, right, like similar age range. And so I think this probably hits home a little more to you guys, trying, like, putting yourself in like a scenario where you'd have to make that decision. And it's really heavy.
Yeah. I have thought way too many times over the last few years about what do I want to leave behind for my child if I have to go unexpectedly. And it's never something that I want to think about as a parent. And I a lot of times just like shove it away. I'm like, nope, we're not even thinking about it because it's not an option. I'm not going. Like, I'm going to grow old and I'm going to watch my child grow up, and it might not be happy and grand all the time, but it's going to be worth it and it's going to be good and it's going to happen. But then every now and then when I do like walk down that path of like, okay, what happens if something happens to me? And especially if my child has to be witness to it, what do I want to leave him behind with? And that is something that, especially on days where he's being very difficult and I'm already overwhelmed, like having that thought in the back of my head is like, okay, I can be kind and loving in this situation, even though it's really hard and my emotions just want to have me fly off the handle, which is so easy to do. Even if you're not a parent, it's so easy to get caught up in your emotions. And I have found that I still don't have an answer to the question of like, what do I want to leave behind? I don't know. I just hope that he's happy and he knows how much I love him. But outside of like, which is a hope for every parent, but outside of that, it's like, I don't know.
Right. But I think you even like in those moments of frustration, when you're telling yourself, nope, I need to extend a little bit more patience, a little bit more grace in this situation for my child right now. I think if something were to happen, our kids remember those things.
Yeah. And I've also learned that the brain has a tendency to romanticize things. So unless you're like really, really, really bad. You remember the good parts and you kind of focus on the good parts, and those are what kind of play through your head. And so as long as you got more good than bad, I think we're all doing all right. Coming back to the story though, others on the island began to congregate at the scene. Some helped the girls get back home, and others called authorities to report the attack. Others stood guard over Aaron, making sure that no other bears would come and scavenge due to the amount of blood on the ground. William, who is a friend of Aaron's, was in the party who went to Sentry Island to collect his body. Upon arrival, he noticed that Aaron had been mauled so viciously that he was unrecognizable, and it was a testament to how hard Aaron fought the bear to save his girls. While Aaron's family and the community in general did not blame bears or hate the polar bear for this, there are some who took matters into their own hands. After this, 4 bears were shot dead, and they were not called in as an act of defense. Further, there are times where after a bear is killed, their meat and pelts will be harvested, and these 4 bears were just left out to rot.
See, that's terrible, because also the bear that pursued him was killed on scene.
Right.
So it's not like they're out searching for a bear who's now, I mean, as if polar bears weren't already comfortable enough approaching humans. Obviously, if you have one that has an interaction with one, I assume would likely be even more comfortable doing that again. That wasn't the case here. That bear was dispatched. They don't need to go out and just take it out on 4 other bears who had nothing to do with it. And then it's like that ultimate disrespect to their bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. Having just being so vindictive is hard for me to wrap my head around.
It's just cruel. It was just plain cruel. Their objective was cruel. The carry out of it was cruel. And that's just really unfortunate, because also he probably wouldn't have wanted them to do that.
No. And based on everything that I read from the family, they all were like, this bear was trying to do what bears do, which is get a meal
right
in a location that's already difficult for them to get large masses of food. And it saw this opportunity and it was like, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity. And the events that played out were devastating. And the bear was doing what bears do does not make it any less devastating. But having that understanding is so, like, I hold so much respect for the people who are able to do that in any sort of disaster.
And that should have been it. Like, we lost a father and a husband. The bear has been killed. There shouldn't have had to be more deaths related to this.
Yeah, there were already 2
casualties.
Yeah, exactly. There did not need to be more.
Though there was not a reason given for why this attack occurred in the first place, I think we can all agree that it was probably hunting. The bear was a big male bear and was in fair condition, not yet to the point where most bears get desperate enough to get close to people to seek out food, which kind of, I guess, implies that this bear might have just been used to humans and being around people. And it got to a point where it was like, oh, I could get food from these people. Maybe it wasn't even hunting the people. Maybe it was just trying to get the eggs that they collected. And I think, though, it was determined that this was a predatory attack with, as we've mentioned, there's a lack of sea ice, there's a lack of food sources. It's just trying to get a meal where he could get a meal. And the bear was not the only bear on this island. At least one other bear was spotted during the same time, and 9 others were seen between Sentry Island and Aravat. This indicates that the sea ice had broken up and several bears decided to go to land rather than swim out farther to ice flows. In addition to this, the family notes that there are polar bear excursions, which may be allowing bears to become more accustomed to people and more desensitized to all of the avoidance techniques that they're using. And it's no longer scaring them away. The noise is no longer scaring them away. Still, polar bear attacks are rare. In this area, the most recent attack prior to Aaron's was 18 years before and 124 miles or 200 kilometers away. Shortly after Aaron's death, a polar bear was shot after several warning shots were fired into the air at the community school where children were outside playing. The studies show that most attacks from polar bears are predatory in nature, and very rarely is there an attack such as a defensive one, which is what caused them to decide to just shoot this bear. And on a note of the very rarely defensive attacks occurring with polar bears, they're even very rarely defending their own cubs. So it's not like grizzly bears where like you pop out on the trail and they're like, nope, you're not coming near my babies. Polar bears just kind of move along because they're big and they're at the top of the food chain essentially. And I think they know that anything smaller isn't going to mess with them. And so they just never had to defend.
Right. They don't have any predators of themselves, so they just casually keep on going.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the predators of polar bears?
Other polar bears?
People.
People are kind of the only ones above.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's only because we have tools. If we had our bare hands, no way.
No, we could
Right.
not fend off the bear hands with our bare hands.
We needed
Okay.
a little palate cleanser in there.
We did.
So when they're in the water, because they obviously swim, as you were saying before, there aren't even any like marine animals that like orcas. Do they ever mess with polar bears when they're in the water? I imagine they come across each other. I don't know.
I did not look that up. I would suspect, though, that the territory that the polar bears are in are probably less common to see like orcas or sharks in,
Mm-hmm.
which means that there's just going to be less opportunity for that to happen. But it would not surprise me if an orca was like, ooh, what's this thing in the water? Let's go investigate, and plops a polar bear right out of the middle of their swim.
Danielle's looking it up.
I did look it up. And actually, as I was typing my question, it was like the first, like, oh, are you going to ask this? So obviously other people have inquired, which is strange that enough people have asked. And the internet says, while orcas generally do not hunt polar bears as regular food sources, there have been documented cases of orcas killing polar bears. And again, it comes to the declining sea ice. So the orcas are able to travel further and they're in polar bear territory. It's essentially so.
I know orcas like the different pods kind of have different meals that they'll eat. So like some will eat more seals and others will eat more salmon. I wonder if there's going to be a pod eventually that's just like, I want the bears. And
That is a matchup that would just be wild to see. I mean, obviously the size difference and a bear, especially in the water, when you're in, when the orca has home court advantage, but that's still, those are two beasts that are, facing off with each other.
yeah.
Yeah, it did say that although like an orca is obviously much larger than a polar bear, that doesn't mean that the orca is not going to be injured if they opt to snack on a polar bear. So
Wow.
that's also why the occurrences are pretty low, because the whales are like, that snack might bite me back.
Did you know that isn't the scientific name for polar bears Ursa maritima or something?
It might
it's like
be.
really
I did
cool
not.
because it literally is like maritime in the scientific name.
It is Ursus maritimus. Ursus maritimus. Yeah. I mean, they're marine animals technically because they spend a lot of time on water. coming back to more bear attacks, between 1870 and 2014, there were only 73 confirmed bear attacks over the course of 144 years. 11 of those attacks happened over a 90-year period from 1870 to 1960. 47 attacks occurred in the 49-year period between 1960 and 2009. And then finally, the final 4 years between 2010 and 2014, 15 attacks occurred. Of all of these attacks, 61% were committed by a bear that was in poor body condition, making them desperate for food and therefore more likely to take a bigger risk to fill their bellies. In addition to this, I am willing to point out that the increase of frequency in attacks can also be contributed to a couple of things. One, there's more people going into polar bear habitats, and in combination with bears coming into establishments more as well, I guess that just means that there's more human-bear interactions that would allow for more attacks. The second thing that I wanted to point out is that there have likely been a lot more attacks since, like, in that time frame that we just don't know about because the person just never came back, or we never found them, or there's a million things that could have happened that a bear could be at fault for, and we just don't know, and so that number isn't counted. Aaron was awarded the Canada Star of Courage Medal after he passed, awarded to those who perform acts of conspicuous courage in circumstances of great peril. Aaron made the ultimate sacrifice that fateful July day when he faced down a polar bear. He didn't hesitate. He just dug into his instincts to shield his daughters and to give them a chance at life while knowing that he was giving up his own. His 3 young girls didn't just lose their father in the most horrific way imaginable, but they stood witness to it, and they now carry the burden of grief and the light of his love that saved them. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming on to the episode.
Thank you for making me cry.
Oh, I'm happy to shed some tears anytime.
No, thank you for having us. I mean, there was a lot of really good information to learn here, and it was a story that I had not heard before, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. I did not know, what happened and the nature of how it all unfolded is, as you said, just nothing short of really heroic.
Yeah.
And, to get his name out there is really great.
Yeah. Well, I know when I originally talked to you guys, I was like, hey, what do you guys want to listen to? And I didn't really give you any warnings or any information about this other than it had to do with a polar bear. So
I'm glad you didn't.
I think I had said, I don't really know a lot about polar bears, so tell us about polar bears. So I now have some talking points about polar bears should it come up in conversation.
Or, a future episode, because there's always a chance for that, being on a very similar podcast as mine. I'm sure.
Yes.
The conversation will come up at some point.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe when we do a bear episode, we'll bring you on to listen.
Oh, that would be so... I don't love bear stories at all.
Okay, we'll do a different story, a different animal.
What is life without close calls with disaster? Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast to be the first to hear the now weekly episodes. Join our subscription on Patreon, Apple, or Spotify today and immerse yourself in the haunting beauty of the great outdoors. For around $4 a month, you'll get exclusive access to the first episode of each month and early access to all other episodes, showcasing the morbid and mysterious side of nature. Please reach out with story requests, and if you have your own story, please email tragedywithaview@gmail.com for a chance to have your story featured on a later episode. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.